Very well. So I'm Neha. That's my colleague Senaara. So
Hi.
lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you.
So I'll shoot with the first question, which is that so basically, what are the most promising markets for Geobrugg in Asia, Middle East, and Africa? So if you can highlight some of the most promising markets.
That's a good question. Most promising market. Look, we are over 20 years in Japan. We are over 25 years in China. We are more over 10 years in India presence with our subsidiary there. So all of the markets there are really interesting and promising for us. Obviously, India, when we talk about India, has a lot of growth potential. And therefore, this is definitely a promising market for us in Asia, beside all the other emerging markets.
Okay, okay. And coming to the Indian market and the players that are operating in India currently, how is Geobrugg differentiating its products from its competitors? And how competitive is the market with, especially the local players that exist in India? So how competitive it is, and what are the challenges that you're facing in India?
So coming to your first question, what is different from Geobrugg? Look, Geobrugg produces meshes and nets out of high tensile steel, which is, I think, the biggest difference between other solutions and slope stabilization nets in the market. So, and this is worldwide. We are a unique company. We are the so-called high tensile company. So all of our slope stabilization systems, they are made out of high tensile steel. Which differentiate a lot from other products, and therefore we must also say that this is our success story from day number one, and this gives us a lot of competitive advantage.
Okay, okay.
When you say you have been asking about how competitive the market is, I mean, it's always competitive and it has to be competitive. Otherwise, it would be also boring. Huh?
Mhm.
What I have experienced over the past 10 years in India is that also clients acknowledge and focus more on quality, because with the existing solutions they have implemented and are still implementing, they also realize that, after a regular frequency of 2 to 3 years, the for example slope stabilization they had to redo again and again, and this on the long term is not really sustainable and costs at the end of the day the end client more money, and roads are blocked frequently, they are closed, and if we are talking about toll roads, then especially there, it's not viable to implement. There are some solutions to protect the road which are not long term.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
So the next question would be that when it comes to testing of rockfall barriers and other rockfall protection meshes, do you feel there is a no need for a common guideline that is accepted worldwide? And is the ETAG 27 guideline accepted worldwide?
Look, there we maybe have to go a little bit backwards. The first guideline for the testing of rockfall barriers was established in Switzerland, because also before that, we have been also here in Switzerland, because we are obviously a mountainous country. We had a lot of rockfall mitigation measures which have not been tested and certified, and there also the energy absorption capacity was unknown or really not tested. So therefore, once at a time, the Swiss government decided, look, we will only invest money for the rockfall protection if those systems which we are implemented, that they are tested and certified, because only then we can be assured that those measures are working and that our tax money is invested correctly.
Hmm.
And therefore, they came up with the rockfall, the first rockfall protection guideline in Switzerland. And then also in 2008, the European Organization of Technical Approval came up with this ETEC 27 guideline, which is then valid for entire Europe. And therefore, also in Europe now, this is mandatory that those rockfall barriers are tested according to this guideline. And in those countries, at least where we are experiencing it now, if there is no country-specific guideline, it is just referred to the European guideline or to the Swiss guideline, because also it's not really mandatory to reinvent the wheel if there is a guideline for such protection kits, and most of the suppliers, we must admit, they are coming from Europe, so they have their system tested according to these existing guidelines. So therefore, I believe also you see it in India when it comes up to the tenders, you see that the minimum qualification is the ETEC 27 approval.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Coming back to, in India, we're strongly promoting, local manufacturing. And I'm not sure if you're aware that we're promoting Make in India as well. So any plans for local production in Asia, India specifically, or Africa, apart from what you currently have in China?
Look, in China, we are producing for the local market because the demand is so high for the local market since over 20 years. Likewise, we do in Japan. We have a production facility also since 20 years. In Australia, we are producing. And I could continue. In the US, we have a production facility. We have in Russia a production facility, in Chile. So therefore, once the demand is there and we have a certain volume, then we are definitely will set up a production facility in India. This is definitely on the mid to long-term planning on the agenda.
And that's fantastic. Sounds very good. Coming back to the Asian market, so you guys are primarily known as the supplier of rockfall protection systems. What is the reason you guys are not providing installation services in Asian, Middle East, and African markets?
Look, our core competence is definitely the production and of our protection measures. This is our core competence. Our core competence is not the installation because there are specialized contractors who do a fantastic job all over, and we definitely our focus is really on the design and development of our mitigation structure. And otherwise, it would be too wide and also a little bit too complicated to then set up in every country an entire contractor business and setting it up there according to the local conditions. So we do on a project to project case, we do also turnkey jobs. We also have some installation teams in some countries, but this is not our really core focus. I mean, we do set up and align sometimes turnkey jobs, but only then with specialized contractors.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so Mcafee is one of your biggest competitors in the market, and there have been news about, certain organizational changes. So what are your thoughts about that? How do you feel that it's going to change the market dynamics?
Look, I'm not too much into the details what is happening at Mcafee. I also heard that they are going under restructuring process because they have some debts with some and some financing issues with some banks, and they received a big bond which the group has to bear and pay back. I can only, we focus on ourselves, and that is also maybe when it comes, we are a family owned business. We are for long term, and we are not stock listed. We are a family owned business, and therefore we are also independent from any stock market variations there, which also is quite fair for our customers, because everything which we are doing, we are financing on our own. We do not have any loans at any bank worldwide, and we are financing everything on our own. That's maybe why we are also not that huge organization and do not have, various products. We specialize on our core competences, where we are good, I would say so far, and want to keep it. And all the best for the Mcafee group, and I believe they will manage to get out of this difficult situation.
Okay. So, innovation is extremely important in the industry. How much importance do you at Geobrugg put on the concept of innovation? And how do you foresee in the coming years in terms of innovation, new techniques? Do you have anything in the pipeline? Do you have a few ideas? Where do you foresee the industry going?
We definitely, our focus is always innovation, and we have an innovation funnel within the company. We have several groups which are focusing on the innovation part. And like you, maybe if you look back into the history, Geobrugg was always the leader and always set in the world records when it comes, for example, for the impact capacity of the rockfall barriers. There we always have been the number one, and then we had some followers. So we have been at that time the first company who had a 3,000 kilojoule barrier, then the 5,000, and the 8,500, and then the 10,000 kilojoule, where we currently still have the world record, and nobody else in the entire world can offer such strong, reliable systems. And therefore we spent a lot of money and time and efforts into R&D and into innovation. And also, if we look beside the rockfall business, when it comes to slope stabilization, then we are also testing new materials, especially for coastal areas. Like we have our Teco mesh now also in stainless steel available, especially for coastal application, which is also essential. And therefore we are always promoting it and pushing it forward.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, considering that we'll be focusing, and winter season's already here, we wanted to talk about a little bit about the avalanche protection. If you can highlight the kind of unique techniques that Geobrugg uses in avalanche protection, maybe talk a little bit about any of the project that you did which turned out to be great, and would like to highlight that.
Oh, there are a lot of avalanche. Basically, that's actually where we are coming from. I mean, in the winter 51, 52, that was far beyond my time, when I was even not on this earth. The first installation we did there were some very, at that time, let me call it primitive structures for the accumulation of more snow onto the mountain peaks. That was done there at that time, winter 51, 52. And from there, the development started really, for the development of this avalanche prevention structure. And this is just basically for the accumulation of more snow onto the mountain peaks. And also after that, subsequently, because you are in the mountain areas, we had some rockfall incidents into such avalanche structures. Then we, out of that, realized, look, those structures are also able to absorb some rockfall impacts. So that's then how we developed out of those avalanche prevention structures some rockfall barriers, and then subsequently it continues and continues. And also the very first installation we did in India was an avalanche prevention structure, and this was in 2007.
And where
Something around.
exactly was this?
That was with SASE in Chandigarh,
Okay.
the snow and avalanche establishment that is part of the Indian Army, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That's a research center,
Yeah.
and they implemented the first avalanche prevention structure. But I must admit, and I cannot explain you the reason, after that it went very quiet. Even if we were pushing and talking to a lot of people, but I think the awareness and the willingness maybe also is not really there. So there we also have to do a lot of more homework maybe also, and I think it's also a kind of an acceptance process, and which has to take place, that such structures have and can mitigate the risk, because every year you have dramatic accidents there with avalanches, and especially the army is facing a lot of problems because a lot of their camps are in the mountain areas, and Border Road is obviously also one organization, and the topic here really is, once an avalanche starts traveling, I think there is barely anything which can stop an avalanche. It will just destroy more or less everything which is down the slope. So therefore, the triggering has to be mitigated, because once it actually starts, that is then the big problem.
Understand. We heard about your recent tie-up with GeoPrevent at Switzerland. So, what can your clients expect from this?
A fantastic increase in our portfolio, because we can now, with this cooperation with GeoPrevent, we can provide more services and more solutions for our clients, because there have been, and also in India, when we talk about India, I've been to many sites in India where almost the entire mountain is then moving slowly downwards. And even if we have the strongest nets in the world, but we cannot stop an entire mountain moving. So therefore, this is then a case where monitoring or a radar system is then required, because this makes much more sense to monitor big movements with monitoring equipment, and also fast-moving items there with radars or with deformation cameras, etc. So this is a great cooperation which we are having, and our client can expect more an increased portfolio out of one hand.
Okay, great, thanks. Can you also talk a little bit about your flagship product, Techo, and how it has evolved, and what can we expect in terms of its evolution in the future?
You are right. Techo is our flagship, and we have also executed a lot of projects in India with Techo. As said, we are always working on different variation when it comes, for example, for the corrosion protection, like we are offering now. The entire Techo mesh also in stainless steel quality. Likewise, we have worked on the openings. Also, we have a smaller opening, the 45-2, which is there a fantastic product as well. If you have a smaller opening of the mesh, so that is also important. We have a combination, an erosion control mat, which is integrated into the Teco mesh. We call it the Teco Green. So those are all developments which we are doing. Besides that, the entire system is then tested, and we have a dimensioning concept behind it, which allows you to define the nail pattern, because it's always a combination of soil nailing or rock bolting along with your mesh cover there. So this is an entire system and a solution concept which we are providing. And this goes on, we are looking into different materials, etc. But too much insight before it's not ready for the market, I obviously cannot tell you now.
Um, I also wanted to ask, how important is sustainability to you as an organization, and are there any initiatives that you guys take as a part of CSR, to ensure anything around carbon footprint, sustainability, greener environment? So wanted to ask you about that.
No, it's definitely a very big topic, which brings me back to the initial question which you are asking. If our philosophy is to provide to a customer a solution, a permanent solution, especially when we are talking about slope stabilization. This should be, at least from our understanding for the client, a sustainable solution which is there for a very, very long time. And if you install a product like it is completely engineered product with the best material and the high tensile steel, then you definitely have a sustainable solution where you not have to redo the entire cutting of the slope again after 2 to 3 years. So this is, I think, also when it comes to the comparison with shotcrete, for example, if you have the chance also to evaluate the shotcrete compared to the flexible slope stabilization measures, then the carbon footprint is much more lower.
Okay.
And this is definitely a green solution. Beside that, we did this integration with this erosion control mat, which allows you to do the revegetation, which is then afterwards also a green solution, because anyway, the vegetation is the best erosion control, and this is for man-cut slope essential.
Okay. So how has the COVID-19 pandemic impacted business for you?
It has definitely had some impacts for us. Globally speaking, it has some markets more, some markets less. It depends how it was seen and the government locally acted. I mean, if you look into infrastructure, in some countries it was seen as essential service for the business, like it is the mining industry in some countries is an essential business segment or in industry. That's why those operations were keep on going. So therefore the impacts have been less. But like it in India, most of the government office, I mean, you are working at 30-40% only, if I'm not mistaken, and therefore I think it's mostly the emergency works which are taking place. There is no new tenders, too many tenders coming up there. Also for our team in India, it's difficult to move around, to go to site visits, to make design efforts and go there, visit the site, do some inspection. This is difficult currently. And I mean, we all have it in our hands, so to say, to that the pandemic hopefully I mean, we have to live with it. There is no way around that. This will, from 1st of January, it will be away. But we have to now find a new modus operandi to live with it. And because otherwise we cannot live in lockdown for forever. this will kill the economy worldwide.
Yeah. So lastly, I would like to know your thoughts about GeoXchange as an initiative.
That is, yeah.
Absolutely. Like you said, I think you only established this year, and it might also. I think the pandemic came right for you, or maybe the idea of setting up Geo Exchange was also maybe coming out of this pandemic situation where a lot of people are in front of their laptops and cannot move around a lot, and therefore I appreciate that very, very much, and you really did proactively your marketing and approached also me directly, and we also had this wonderful first webinar there.
Thank you so much. I mean, honestly, we're really humbled and really, really delighted that Geobrugg has been supporting us. The initiative, and I think Jitin has been fantastic. I cannot even, he's been so supportive. He's very, very accessible. So I think, I mean, as an Indian counterpart, I can't even thank you enough.
No.
He's been a pillar to us.
No, that is no. Thank you, and I think it's important. We also did a number uncountable of webinars, etc., which are good. And also, 2 weeks back we did our Geo Summit, which is normally a physical event where we invite customers to come to Switzerland or somewhere else in the world, where we then show them the latest developments which we are doing with the rockfall barrier testing, etc., etc. But this year it was also a premiere for us to do this online. I'm not so sure if you could participate there. It was a fantastic showroom with live presentations, which we have done in 3 time zones. So those are now things which we all have to do, and that's why I like your initiative there and pushing it through. And it's, I think, very nicely accepted, and everybody is, or a lot of people are following you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks, Jitin, for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day.